to the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'll be your host today. Welcome. I'm coming to you from my home in New York, where I live with my husband, our 2 cats and our baby girl, who's currently sleeping, and hopefully she'll stay asleep long enough for me to do this. I say this every time. I've recorded ever since she was born, so it should be old news for those of you who've watched before. And yeah, well, thank you so much for coming back. If you are a returning viewer, I do appreciate it very much. And thank you so much if you're a new viewer for checking me out. I hope you enjoy what you see. I've turned off the AC in the living room just because the unit is right behind where the camera's set up, so it would be quite loud. But I have the AC on in the room next door, so I'm hoping the noise doesn't bother you guys too much, but it is boiling in here right now. So I'm already overheating, so hopefully this won't be too difficult. Today is Friday the 16th of June. I had hoped to record earlier this week, but it just didn't work out that way. But in any case, so it's been about 4 weeks since I last did a proper podcast, and so I'm sorry it's been that long. I had intended on podcasting again sooner, but my brother came over for about 2.5 weeks, and my mum came over for a week while he was here as well. So things were pretty busy around here. I didn't have a lot of time to sort of just sit down and just record a podcast. So I hope you guys don't mind the unintended break. And yeah, I'll jump right in. So you can find me a bunch of places online, Ravelry, Instagram, etc., and all of those places are linked below in the description box on YouTube. There's also a Ravelry group for the podcast, that's the Knitting Expat Podcast, and every week or every episode there is a episode thread where the video is linked. All the other links are there, and you can find the show notes through that thread as well. There are also show notes on a separate blog, which is the knittingexpat.wordpress.com blog, and so you can find the show notes for this and all previous episodes there. So apologies if I'm a little bit rusty today. Like I said, it's been 4 weeks, so it's been a while since I had that sort of a break in the podcast. We do have a coupons code in the, sorry, my phone keeps buzzing, and Hugo's just shown up, so hopefully he'll come join us for a little bit. Come on, buddy, you wanna come up? Some access maybe. Yeah, so we have some coupon codes. We have a coupon code thread in the group. Sorry, like I said, a bit rusty. And so make sure you check that out. I know there are a few active coupons in there at the moment, so if you're interested in having some savings on some lovely knitting related goodies, then by all means check that out. Come on then. Keeps like leaning up against my leg and having a sniff, but you gonna jump up? Say hello? I can convince him to come up here. Anyway, so finished objects. First thing I wanted to show you, this is an old finished object, but one that I haven't shown you because this is the June New York Sock Club pattern. Hold it up close so you guys can see better. There we go, so it doesn't get blown out. And this is the Times Square socks that I knit out of Leila Did It's yarn in the Dowager Countess colorway. And the heels and cuffs, I believe the purple is Summer Nights and the green is Fortunate Sun. So if I hold it up there, you can see it better. There we go. It's kind of faux cable effect. It kind of gives a cable effect without actually doing cables. So it's a really nice fun texture pattern to work with, and it's based in rib, so it's nice and stretchy. And I've obviously just done it on the front, but you can also do it on the back of the sock as well. And I did alternating colours for the heel, cuffs and toes, so one was green, one was purple, and all the way throughout. So I thought I made a pretty fun pair of socks. Yeah, so those were the June socks. That's sort of halfway through the month of June now, but we'll be coming up to the July socks soon, and that'll be fun. I hope you guys enjoy that pattern as well. It's going to be, I'm hoping to podcast right around the beginning of July so I can show you at the beginning of the month rather than halfway through the month what the pattern looks like on the podcast. The last time I podcasted, I told you guys that I'd ripped back the skirt portion of this baby dress that I designed to re-knit the skirt, because I tried an alternative version with this one and I didn't really like how it turned out. So I ripped back the skirt and I re-knit it, and here's Hugo. Found his way onto the table finally. Hey? And yeah, so I finished that as well. I finished that actually quite soon after the last podcast. I just hadn't had a chance, obviously, to podcast again. And this is the newborn size, the 0 to 3 month size, I believe. Yes, this is the 0 to 3 month size, and this was knit out of Shirty Cat Designs yarn in the Nightwood colourway. And it used a little over 50 grams. I think it used about 60 grams total of that skein. Thank you, Hugo. And on the note of this dress, I have had the dress test knit now, and I believe most of the test kniters are finished. The deadline was Wednesday, I believe. So I'm finishing up the pattern. I've taken all the pattern photos, and so those are all ready. I just need to finalize the pattern, make a final few tweaks to it, and then that will be ready to be released. And this is the original one that I knit up, which the pattern is based off of. This is now going to be, this is the 6 to 12 month size. And the other sizes, the larger sizes above 12 months have quite a long sort of skirt length on them. And by all means, you don't have to knit the skirt as long as the pattern calls for. The idea behind having the skirt that long is so that it is long on the child to begin with, and then as she gets older she can still wear it, and as it gets shorter then you can wear it with leggings as they get older. Because like I said, this is 6 to 12 month size, this is 0 to 3 month size. Both of these fit Leila now. This one obviously fits more like a short dress or a t-shirt, and this one fits more like an actual dress at the moment, and she is now sort of wearing 4 to 5 month size clothes. She's going to be 4 months next week, so that gives you an idea. The sizing on these are very flexible in that sense. I do give the finished circumference chest measurement and the intended the range of for fit, if that makes sense. So for example, if this is intended to fit a child with a, let's say, 17-inch chest, but the finished measurement on this is like 14 inches, so there's a bit of negative ease built into the pattern, but this will probably still fit a child with a bigger chest than 17 inches because there's a lot of stretch in the garter stitch in this portion, just the way the pattern is done. And the reason why there are buttons on the back, like at the moment this size goes over Leila's head without needing to undo the buttons, but the smaller size, even though it still fits her, you have to undo the buttons. So the buttons again gives flexibility in terms of how long your daughter or niece or whoever you're knitting it for can wear the dress for. The idea is longevity. With kids, they grow out of their clothes so quickly, as I'm coming to learn. I always knew that, but it's becoming more and more apparent. So that was that one. That's another finished object. And my third finished object is one that I'm not showing you yet. I posted sort of a teaser photo of it on Instagram a few days ago. It's a new design that I'm working on for the autumn, and it should be released. I believe that one's going to be coming out towards the mid to end of August. I need to work on another version of it. So the one that I've just finished is the scarf version, and there's going to be a wrap version as well, and it's a very adaptable pattern. It's incredibly flexible. I will have instructions on how to knit the scarf and the wrap exactly as I've done it, but then I'll also include instructions on how you can modify it, how you can make changes based on your gauge and the amount of yarn you have, etc. So as with all my patterns, I try to make them as flexible and as customizable as possible, so you can really take it and make it your own and do what you want with it. So you don't necessarily have to copy and make exactly what I've made. You can run with it and make it completely your own, or you can just make exactly what I've made if you really like it. So you know, you have as many options as you want with it. So I'm really looking forward to that. But like I said, it's really a autumn winter weight and sort of style of pattern. It's not really a summer pattern, which is why I'm not releasing it now. It seems a little bit a bit silly to release a quite a warm knit this time of the year. So yeah, I'll be sharing that later in a couple of months maybe. And then the last finished object that I have to show you is the Starting Point Mystery Knit Along by Joji Locatelli. I am pretty sure most people have seen this already, so I hope it's not a surprise. But if you don't want to see it, look away, skip ahead a few minutes, and I'm just going to show you what mine looks like. So like I said, the pattern is by Joji Locatelli. It was a mystery knit along that finished a week or so. Yeah, last week. Last week was the last clue. And I knit it on 4mm needles. And this is what it looks like. It's the starting point shawl, or starting point wrap. And this is the middle, obviously where you see where the point is in the middle. And this is one half of the scarf. And the other half of the scarf. Basically identical on the two sides. So for the mystery knit along, you knit both halves at the same time on separate needles, and then the last clue was this middle section where you join it together, which was really fun. It was a really fun knit. Used up the most of 5 skeins of yarn, which was pretty good, so there wasn't like a ton of leftover yarn. I'll run you through the colours. So this dark grey here is a John Alban Textiles knit by numbers. Can't remember the number, but it's a really dark grey. This purple is Madeleine Tosh Marina Light in the 79th Street Sunset colourway. This green is also Madeleine Tosh Marina Light in Jade. And I should mention this purple one is a Nitty City exclusive colourway by Madeleine Tosh. This speckled colourway is also Madeleine Tosh, but this is on their twist light base, so the base with nylon in it. And this is Found Pottery colourway. And the last one, the grey, is another John Alban Textiles knit by numbers. So those are the 5 colours that I used. And I really love how it turned out. I posted some pictures of Leila wrapped up in this on Instagram, so you may have seen that there. But it is a nice big shawl. I won't be keeping this on for very long because it is pretty warm, like I mentioned. It's a grey day, but it's very warm. So yeah, this is going to be great in the winter. No, Hugo, you cannot play with it. And yeah, I really like how it is. The size is great. It's really huge. You can also, I guess, wear it as a scarf. This would be good on a cold winter's day to wrap up in. I might end up just using it as a blanket for Leila when the winter comes around. Wrap her up in it in the stroller. But we'll see. Hey, I might have to knit her one. Anyway, this is that. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't done a mystery knit along in a while, and it's been a while since I've knit someone else's patterns when it wasn't a garment, like in terms of shawls and stuff like that. So it was really fun to do that. And yeah, it was really fun to knit along with everyone else and see everyone else's progress as well on Instagram and stuff. Okay, so that's it for finished objects that I had to show you this week. Sorry about the sirens. Moving on to works in progress. The first work in progress I have to show you is my pinwheel scrap blanket. I have another block completed for that since the last time I showed you. This, like I believe I mentioned before, this is basically my stroller knitting. I have a small project bag with 8 bits of scrap yarn, my needles, scissors, tapestry needle, all my little bits that I need to do a square. And whenever I'm taking the subway or I'm out with Leila, if she's having a nap and I'm sat down somewhere or something, I can pull it out and knit a few rows on it while she's sleeping, and we're at the park or on the subway or anything like that. So I always have a little bit of knitting with me if I don't have anything else on hand. And so just slowly making progress. This literally did take me 3 weeks to do this, just because it was only what I was doing when we were out and about. Next work in progress I have to show you is a cardigan that I'm working on for myself. Okay, you might need to move over a little bit. You can stay on the table, you just need to move over. Okay, thank you. This is the Samuel cardigan, also by Joji Locatelli. And if you remember last time I showed it to you, did I even get to show this on the podcast? I think last time I either only just started it or was discussing what colours I was going to use. I can't remember now. I think I had started it. I think it was just the beginning. But I finished the body now. I actually finished the body about a week ago. I was kind of just taking a break from knitting on it. This is the Samuel cardigan. Yes, I had shown it to you. I just realised because I put a marker in on the back here. And you can see where I did the colour change. Now that doesn't bother me at all. Obviously the first skein I started with was quite a bit darker, and the reason was I couldn't alternate from the very beginning because there were short rows in the pattern to shape the back and neckline, which is fine. And I decided not to alternate until after I split for the sleeves, just to keep things simple. And after I split for the sleeves, I knit a few more rows and then I started to alternate. So here is where I was last time I showed it to you, and I believe here is where this marker here is where I started to alternate. So I actually knit a bit further than I intended before I started alternating, but I started alternating until the first yarn I started with, the first ball, was almost run out. And what I did was I took 5 grams, 2 5-gram mini skeins off of that first ball to use to alternate when I start the sleeves with the new skein of yarn, because otherwise there could be a very clear like line of demarcation where the sleeve starts. So I have 5 grams for each sleeve from the original first ball that I started at the top here to alternate with the last skein I have left for each sleeve to sort of blend it in. And the rest here you can see is a lot more blended in this section, where I was alternating between the first skein and the new skein, and then once the first skein ran out, I just alternated from both ends of the second skein. Instead of alternating between 2 complete different skeins, I just alternated from opposite ends of the same skein, because I realized one end was lighter than the other end, so it sort of had the same sort of effect all the way to the end. And I still have, where is it? This tiny amount left from the second skein. Yeah, and these are the 2, oh jeez, I'm making a mess of things here. So I have 2 small balls from the first skein, and I have a whole third skein left. So I had 3 skeins of this yarn, which is Verdant Griffin, Little Traveller in the Mossman colorway. So it's a light fingering, 560 yards in 4 ounces. There we go. And so this is a lighter weight yarn than it's called for in the pattern. My gauge was slightly tighter than called for in the pattern as well. So what I did was I went up a size. Actually went up, I don't know, 1 size or 2 sizes. Anyway, I went up to a size where after I calculated it, it was still going to end up giving me the chest circumference that I was looking for after blocking. So right now it still looks a bit small, but I mean, I don't mind. I still have some baby weight to get rid of, so I will get there eventually. But it does have buttonholes on this side, and yeah, so that's what it looks like on at the moment. The shoulders fit great, the sleeves fit good. Well, I haven't put the sleeves on yet, but the shoulder cap, and yeah, I really like the cable detail down the front is really fun. And actually, considering it's an all over texture cardigan, I've never knit a cardigan that has, or any garment that has all over texture. It's usually been stockinette base, the stuff that I've knit has an all over texture. It really didn't take as long as I thought it would, because there are rest rows, there are just plain rows as well in between. I'm not going to say too much because it is a paid for pattern, but it's just really fun. And in terms of alternating, the way I did that was, instead of carrying the yarn up the side of the outside edge of the project, because this is the finished edge, the button band is sort of knit on as you're knitting with this cardigan. So once you're finished, you're finished. There's no going back and picking up stitches to knit the button band. I didn't want the yarn to be carried up the outside because I knew that would affect the finish of the edge. So what I did was I would knit across the button band and then the cable stitches, this until the start of the texture section, and that is where I would alternate my yarns. So you can see on the inside here where the tails are hanging. So I would carry the yarn up in this join here, and from the right side you can't see at all where those yarns have been carried. And same on the wrong side. I mean, it's only because the tails are still there that you know where the joins have been, but it kind of conceals it really nicely if you've got like a texture panel or a sort of a cable panel or something to hide the join at that point, rather than right on the edge of the work. If it was a pickup, if there was a pickup band, button band, I probably would have just done it at the edge because it's simpler. But doing it a few stitches in and alternating there works better for this type of cardigan where the button band is knit on. I could have also done it at the edge of where the button band meets the cable stitches. I could have also alternated there and it would have been fine, but I just chose to do it that way. I have actually made a mistake on this cardigan, just to prove that I am not completely without fault when I knit, but I didn't notice it until quite far in, until I passed it by quite a ways. Otherwise I probably would have dropped back and tried to fix it, but at this point, by the time I realized, where is it? By the time I realized my mistake, I was so far past it, and now I'm even struggling to find it. I couldn't be bothered. It was right back at the beginning, I think, quite close to the beginning. Where is it? At least I thought it was. Okay, this is strange. I know there was a mistake in the cables. Alright, I'm gonna find this because I know it's in there. Ah, here we go. Okay, so it wasn't right at the beginning, so I'm actually halfway down the body. Right here. I don't know if you can see it right there. I did the wrong twist, wrong cable stitch. So it's two of the same ones stacked on top of each other instead of alternating them. It's not really all that obvious unless you're looking for it, and I mean I know it's there, but you saw it just took me a minute to find it. So it's not the most obvious thing. It really doesn't bother me at all. I've always said, you know, we're not robots, we're humans. A little bit of imperfection isn't gonna ruin anything. And I really love the color. I really like how this is turning out. So like I said, I just took about a week's break from it because I usually do that when I'm knitting a garment and I get the body done. I usually take a bit of a break before I start the sleeves, just so I don't get completely exhausted by it. This has taken me a while to knit, I will admit. I tend to knit garments in about a month, typically. But obviously with the baby and everything, it's a little bit difficult. But the whole body did only take me a month. It took me 4 weeks from when I started until when I finished the body. Like I said, I've taken a week off and I'm gonna get back onto it. Maybe this weekend, maybe beginning of next week, I'll start picking up the stitches and doing the sleeves. And I will be doing the sleeves one at a time. I know a few people have commented asking me if I knit sleeves 2 at a time or if I've considered that and stuff like that. I don't knit sleeves 2 at a time for a couple of reasons. Initially, when you're first picking up in those first few rows, it can be a bit fiddly to do 2 at a time because you're so close to the sweater body. But also because I find it difficult to try on a garment if I'm knitting the sleeves 2 at a time, because I can't open it and put it on properly because you're pulling. I'd have to keep transferring the stitches onto waste yarn or a spare cable, and it just seems like a lot of faff. And what I do is when I knit the first sleeve, actually I rarely ever follow exactly the instructions on the sleeves. I start following them initially and then I'll just keep trying it on and put the decreases where I want them to get the kind of fit that I want on the sleeve for me. And then I just make notes on, because I count rows no matter what I'm knitting. Even with the sweater, with the body, I was counting rows. And so with the sleeve, I count rows and I keep a tally of what I'm doing. Especially with the texture stitch, it's quite easy to keep track. And so I keep very meticulous notes on how I knit my sleeve. And so then when I go back and do the second sleeve, it's not a problem. If anything, the second sleeve is always a lot quicker because I'm just following what I've already done. It's not a lot. I don't have to keep trying it on to make sure it fits. So I hope that answers that question that I've had in the past. My next work in progress is a pair of socks. I haven't had a pair of socks on the needles for a while. I actually cast these on whilst my mum was here because we were thinking of going to the cinema one night and have my mum look after Leila or watch her while she was sleeping. And then I realised I didn't have any socks on the needle, so I quickly cast on a pair of socks and then I left them at the ribbing. I didn't touch them again for a while. And then yesterday I was going out with friends, I'll talk about that later, but some knitting friends in New York. And so I grabbed the socks and I started knitting on them a little bit before I left. And I knit most of this whilst we were out last night on the commute there and back. It was in Brooklyn when we went. So on the train there and back, and then also over dinner. So almost done with the leg. Probably have another 10 to 15 rows before I'm done with the leg. The yarn is a Reggio design line by Anya and Carlos. I don't know which line this is, which version it is, but it's one of them, and it's color number 3762. I don't know what the name is for it, if they have a name for it, but this is how it knits up. As you can see, they're not matching. When I'm knitting patterned socks like this, like self-patterning socks, either I make the effort to get them to match, or if they're not going to match, I actually pull from opposite ends of the pattern, so the pattern doesn't progress in the same way. You can see here the pattern is going in opposite directions. I don't mind them being mismatched, but if they're going to be mismatched, I want them to be completely mismatched, not like just, you know, a few rows out, because then that looks really awkward. That looks like you've made a mistake rather than doing it on purpose. So I have them going in opposite directions. That's why they're completely mismatched, and they're never going to look like they're just a little bit off, but they're obviously still the same. And this is going to be a pair of socks for my dad. He's a very knit-worthy sock recipient, and whilst my brother was here, I sort of sat down with him with the yarn that I had and had him pick out a few skeins for my dad and a few skeins for himself. So I'm just going to slowly work my way through those to knit my brother and my dad socks to hopefully gift them for Christmas this year. For my mum, I can knit anything for her and she'll be happy with it. So as will my dad's not fussy on colours either, but I just wanted to make sure that I picked out things that I knew he would definitely like. I also have a stockpile of socks to be gifted that I could easily give to my mum as well. My mum's shoe size is kind of like the standard size sock I knit for gift knitting for like the women in my life. My mum has pretty average size feet. So the next work in progress, actually I'll show you a different one first. My next work in progress is a crochet project. I didn't show this to you guys last time because I hadn't really done any work on it, but I have made quite a bit of progress recently. So this is the crochet scrap granny blanket that everyone has been doing lately, and I cast this on a while ago now. I can't remember, do I have a note here when I started it? April, beginning of April, so 2 months ago. And this is how far I am now. I don't work on this all the time, but I do work on it, you know, I do a couple of rows every now and again. Some days I work on it more than others, it just depends on the mood I'm in. So the marker that I have on here is where I was the last time I showed you. So I was from about here all the way up to here is how much I've done in the last month, essentially. Month or longer, 6 weeks I think, since the last time I showed this to you guys. So not a ton of progress, but I'm enjoying it. It's just a fun thing to work on and pick up every now and again. This sort of just sits on the sofa next to me with one other project usually at a time, and I kind of alternate and then rotate projects around. So yeah, I really love how bright and colourful it is, and it's very rainbowy, so it's very true to me and my style. Ironically, all the yarns I'm using for this project are yarns that have been sent to me or in swaps or mini skein sets and stuff that I've had over the last little while that I've been knitting. And I don't do one big magic cake ball because I don't want to have too many of the similar colours coming up next to each other, and some of the mini skeins I have are smaller than others, so I only get like partial rows from some, so I don't want there to be too many similar colours overlapping with each other. So I just ball up my minis in individual balls and magic knot them together as I go. That way I can pick and choose where I put specific colours. I'm not particularly fussy, like I'm not like trying to do much colour management. I'm just trying to keep an equal balance of, again, like I don't want too many dark colours all in one spot because it will look weird. I kind of want to try and keep an even balance between light and dark and not having too much of the same colour in one place. Otherwise, not much yarn management otherwise. I'm using a 3.5mm hook, which is an E-hook, and I'm following the tutorial by Attic24. If you just type in scrappy granny striped blanket or something onto Google, it will come up very quickly. And I also did a chainless single crochet foundation row. I think that's how you say it correctly. And the one I did was about 270 cast on chain stitch thingies, which is about as wide as my wingspan, which is about 5'10". And so yeah, it'll be a decent size. It's not a huge sort of, I didn't want it to be like a bedspread size because we never really use it on the bed. I just wanted it to be a nice throw size for the sofa. My other Cozy Memories blanket that I knit, the one with the mitered squares, that one is lovely for on the sofa, and we use it all the time on the sofa, so it'd be nice to have a second one as well. So the last work in progress I have to show you also kind of leads into acquisitions. This is pretty good in that sense. I was contacted a while ago by people from We Are Knitters. It's a online website where they do they sell yarn, but they also primarily do kits for all sorts of things, from like things for your home, garments, shawls, accessories, like handbags, all sorts of kits that you can knit. And I think now crochet as well, they've just released a line of crochet as well, crochet items. So they contacted me to see if I'd be interested in working with them and like trying out one of their kits and reviewing it on the podcast, and I said absolutely. I really like their stuff. It's very sort of classic, clean lines, not too fussy. And so I picked out this sweater. It's a very sort of classic shape. It's the Cusco sweater, and the kit comes with everything that you need to knit it. You get all the yarn. So the yarn that I picked, the colorway I picked is the wine color. It's lovely sort of rich dark red, and this is the baby wool. So it's 100% baby alpaca, 50 grams, is 112 meters, and the recommended needle size is 5 millimeters. And it comes with the needles, and you also get, just trying to put it in here. It's in here somewhere if I can find it. Not the best prepared right now. There we go. So, as well as the lovely packaging with all the yarn in it that you will need, you also get the needles, which are obviously not in the packaging anymore, but you get the needles that come. You have the option, if you're buying a kit, to get it with the needles or without. They do come with straights, so if you're not a fan of knitting with straights, then I wouldn't suggest getting the needles. But if you don't mind knitting with straights, then by all means get the needles. They did send me the needles, and I really wanted to give it a go. I've not really knit with straights since I started knitting. I don't know if that's going to show up or not. That's what their name. There we go. We Are Knitters name, and then the size of the needles is a 5 millimeter. So it's written on the needle as well, which is great. And you also get the pattern, which is printed really nicely. This is the Cusco sweater. You get give you all the schematics and the sizes and the kind of techniques you'll need. They have all their technique videos on their website that you can access to see how to do them if you're not sure, if you're new. Like full instructions on how to knit the pattern, seaming instructions. I will say their garment patterns, if you're knitting a garment, or other patterns I assume as well, are seamed patterns because you knit them on straights. But you know what, I haven't knit a seamed garment since I first started knitting, and I think I've only knit one or two that needed to be seamed back in the early days, and I haven't knit on straights for such a long time either. So I really wanted to give both another go, and especially because I picked a sweater that was knit out of alpaca, I knew that seams would help with longevity and keeping it in stopping the sweater from getting too slouchy or too pulled in the wrong way. So this is the progress I've made so far. So this is just one of this is either the front or the back piece. They're knit exactly the same. I'm almost finished. I think I'm maybe about 15 rows, 10-15 rows from being finished with this piece. But this is so far 2 balls of yarn has gotten me through almost one entire side. And obviously they send you enough yarn to use for the size that you pick. You also get a We Are Knitters label to stick into your garment, little tag, which I thought was really fun. And you also get a darning needle to weave in your ends and to seam up your garment if you pick a garment. So the lovely people at We Are Knitters, like I said, they sent me this kit to try, and I have to say this alpaca yarn is super soft, very minimal itch factor because it is baby alpaca. It's going to be super warm for the winter or autumn. It's nice and drapey. I really love the drape on this one, and they've offered to for me to be able to give away a kit of the Cusco sweater on the podcast, which I thought was amazing, and was very thankful for that. So give you guys a chance to win a Cusco sweater kit. But I also realized that not a lot of people, or not everyone, necessarily likes to knit with alpaca because either they have a sensitivity towards it or they just don't like it for garments, whatever your reason. So they've agreed that whoever wins can choose either between the Cusco sweater, which is knit out of their alpaca yarn, or the classic sweater, which is essentially exactly the same as the Cusco sweater, but it's knit out of wool instead of alpaca. So you could pick from either, and then it will also be the colorway of your choice as well from what they have available on their website. So I will link I will set up a thread in the group for this giveaway, and I will have a link to both the Cusco sweater and the classic sweater, so the one or the other would be the one you would pick from, so you can see what they are. And the prompt for the giveaway is going to be, what do you enjoy most about garment knitting / why do you want, or if you've never knit a garment, why do you want to try garment knitting? So cover both bases. And I will leave that giveaway thread open for as long as I'm knitting the sweater, and once I finish the sweater I will draw a winner and announce it on the following podcast when it's a finished object. So unfortunately there's no specific deadline for this giveaway, but it will be open probably for another, I'd say probably another month at least before I finish that sweater, because I've got 2 garments on the go now. But I have to say, a garter stitch garment knit flat is great for knitting with a baby, especially because there's not a lot of shaping involved with it either, so it is something I can easily pick up and put down without having to think about it too much. So that, like I said, that giveaway thread will be up in the group, in the Ravelry group, by the time this podcast has gone live. Okay, so I guess we may as well just move on to the rest of the acquisitions. I have a few things to share with you. First up is this Love & Vine Yarns tote bag that Kristen gave me when I met up with her a couple of weeks ago. Again, talking about that a bit more later. So yes, that's the tote that's holding everything else in it. I've got a bunch of goodies in the mail over this last month since I last spoke to you guys, so there's quite a few things to show here. First up, let me just figure this out. Okay, so I was contacted by the lovely Joanne. Lovely Joanne, who is Wild Woolly on Ravelry, and she wanted to send me a couple of project bags, one for me to keep and one to use as a giveaway. So this is the one that I'm going to be keeping, which is a New York themed project bag, which I really like the style of this one, and the print is really fun, and the inside has a sort of a fun fabric as well. She also sent a cranberry fig lotion bar, and she also sent a baby bee soap for Leila, which I thought was really sweet. But she also sent a project bag for you guys to use for a giveaway. So this will be used for an upcoming prize in one of the knit-alongs we have going on. I'm not going to take it out of the bag, but there's also a lotion bar in the lemongrass colorway, lemongrass scent, and the project bag is cute kitties. A kitty on the front, kitty on the back. Sorry about the glare on the plastic, I just don't want to take it out of the wrapping. So this will be for a future prize. So thank you so much for that, Joanne, I really appreciate it. Then next up we have, the rest is all yarny stuff. So I was contacted by the lovely owner of Yarn Experiments. Looking at the tags to make sure I get the names of everything correct. Yarn Experiments Yarn Company, and it's the lovely Monica. And she wanted to send me a couple of skeins of yarn to try out. So she is a yarn dyer in her spare time. Like I said, she has the Yarn Experiments yarn, and she sent me a couple of skeins. So this one is the Sinaloa colorway, which is lovely sort of oranges and greens, a really sort of lovely, slightly variegated yarn, which I think I will use for a giveaway. And another skein she sent me, which is a really special one. She named it Baby Leila, which I thought was really cute. So it's a really nice sort of soft orangey peachy colour with pinks and purples and greens. She said there had to be purples and greens in it because of me, and a bit of pink because just because. So that's that one. So this one I will probably keep and knit something for Leila out of it at some point in the future. And so this one, the Baby Leila colorway, is on her 75/25 superwash merino nylon, and this one is on her high twist MCN 80/10/10. It's really nice and soft and squishy. So thank you for those, Monica. then the next package came from the lovely Kelsey of Primrose Yarn Company. She's very sweet, and we're pretty good friends, and we've worked together in the past on sort of designs and things. And I happened to comment on one of her Instagram posts that I really liked, like a set that she put together. And next thing I know, she's sending it to me, and I was just completely gobsmacked. So thank you so much for this, Kelsey. Really lovely. I love these colours together. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but I have a couple of ideas rummaging around my mind for it. And so the colourways, and these are all on her Sophia fingering yarn, 3/5 fingering. It's a 80-10-10 superwash merino cashmere and cashmere nylon. Sorry. And this one is called Abyss. It's a really lovely sort of medium toned grey tonal. Then we have this one, which is a lovely sort of mauvey pink purple with bits of greys and oranges sort of flecked in there. And this one's called Dior, which is also really beautiful. And finally, this one has to be one of my favourite colours in general. Like, I love this sort of mustardy golden yellow colour, and this is called Copper Penny Dreadful, which I believe is a reference to the TV series Penny Dreadful, I think. And yeah, I really like that as well. So I think the three go together really well. There's bits of the sort of mustardy golden yellow in Dior as well as the grey, so this sort of ties in together quite nicely with those. So I have an idea for this one. Something fun, hopefully. And finally, I was contacted by the lovely dyer behind Trailers Yarn. Get everything out here. So the lovely Lisa sent me a couple of skeins to play around with, and these are beautiful. They're both on her Stellina base. So this one, again, was one that I happened to comment on, saying that I really liked it on her Instagram, and so she decided this was one of the ones she was going to send me. And this is the Fure colorway. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. This is 95% superwash merino and 5% silver Stellina, and it's actually a singles yarn, which I've never seen a Stellina singles yarn before. I didn't actually realize that until right now when I looked at it. Obviously hadn't paid much close attention at before, which is really interesting. And this is a really lovely sort of brownish base with hints of sort of, again, that golden yellow orange color and some tealy blues in there. It's a really lovely, interesting variegated colorway. She showed this sort of as it was drying on the racks, and it was beautiful to look at. So thank you again so much for that. I really, really appreciate it. And she also sent this crazy skein for me to play with. I mean, look at those colors. Purples and yellows and greens, and sort of the purples bleeding into this hot pink. This would make it a really special project of some kind. I'm not sure what yet. This is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% gold Stellina. Both of these are, so this one's 366 meters, and this one's 400 meters in a skein. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might use one of these for a giveaway. I'm not sure. She said I can keep both of them if I wanted to, so I might be selfish and do that, but I would probably use one for a giveaway. Just a short spread the love. And yeah, that's it for the acquisitions. Not that that wasn't enough. More than plenty. I was very, again, always incredibly overwhelmed by people's generosity in sending me stuff to play with and also to give away on the podcast. I really appreciate that very much. I also told you about the We Are Knitters stuff as well, and I also got the June Knit Crate box, which I did a review of, and that video is already live on the channel, so you can check that out. And make sure you watch until the end, because Leila has decided that she also wants to be part of the review, and got very chatty towards the end and wanted to make sure you all knew exactly what she thought about it as well. So even though I was ready to sign off, she wasn't quite ready yet, so there's quite a bit of chatter from her at the end. Okay, next up is knit along and giveaway news. I've already discussed about the We Are Knitters giveaway, and also the knitting. We have two cows going on in our group at the moment, knit alongs. We have the Knitting Expat Designs year-long knit along. That is basically knit any of my designs to be entered to win. All the rules are in the threads and in the relevant threads in my group. I've already drawn the prize winners for the end of May, and which is in a separate video, which I'll talk about in a second. And also the sock pattern club, which is currently ongoing. We're on month 4, which I showed you earlier, the Times Square socks that I did. And I also drew prizes for the end of May for that one as well, and I did a separate video for prize winners that also went up a couple of days ago. I will link both of those videos for you in the episode thread and in the show notes as well, so you guys can have direct access to them to see if you're a winner, or if you want to see the review. So like I said, so please check those out. It's a very short video for the giveaway. I'd really appreciate it if you would just check and see if you're a winner and get in touch with me as soon as you can. I would like to get everyone's prizes out to them as soon as possible. And also the Knit Crate box that I did the review for, there's a giveaway thread for that in the group as well. I decided to give this month's box away to one of you lucky viewers. I try to give away as many of the boxes as I can. Occasionally a box comes along that I'm absolutely in love with and I decide I want to keep it, and that is fine, I can do that, but I've given most of them away. I think I've given most of the boxes away, and I've got one box still to do a giveaway for that I'm kind of just holding back for now for a future giveaway. And yeah, so if you're interested in that, that thread is open for 2 weeks, and I will be drawing a prize winner from that soon, or once it ends. So moving on to questions and answers. Let me just open up that thread and see where we're at in terms of questions. I know I have a few that I haven't answered, so I just need to see where I got up to. Okay, so LynJ8513 has asked, hi Mina, I was just wondering if you are going to publish the pattern for the baby dress in episode 101, so the one I showed you earlier. Yes, I am going to publish it, and I don't know if I mentioned it earlier in the episode or not, but like I said, I just need to do a few finishing touches to it, so hopefully this pattern will be up for sale on Ravelry this weekend, either on Saturday or Sunday. This will be up for sale, so yes, you can. And it will be in sizes from newborn up to 5 years. And depending on your child and their size and height, they could probably wear it when they're even older than 5. It just depends on how long you knit the skirt. Okay, that's a response to one of the questions. The next question I have is from Daylight Knits, and she says, what's her question? She says, why do you block before trimming your ends? Please forgive me if you've already answered this question from someone else. Okay, so the reason why I block my garment before, so I weave in my ends before I block, but then I don't trim them until after I've blocked the garment or item, whatever it is. Usually because when you're blocking, you're more often than not sort of stretching out or shaping the item to be the shape that you want it to be when it's finished. So by doing that, the tail yarn could get not so much stretch, but it could it might need room to like sort of like spread out a bit. So if you trim it really close before you block it, and once you've blocked it and you stretched out, the tail end could pop out. So to avoid that happening, I block it and then I trim it. That way then I don't end up with like a rogue end poking out the wrong side of my work. It's not overly important to do it that way, it's just a preference. I don't always do it that way. Sometimes I do just trim the ends before I block it. It's sometimes I don't, if in case the only times I don't do it, sometimes actually I don't even weave in the ends before I block it, and I only do that in situations where I think I might want to rip it back, or I'm not entirely happy with how things are turning out and I want to just see how it looks. But there's no real right way or wrong way to do it. You can weave in before or after you block, you can trim before or after. It's totally up to you. There is no real right or wrong way. That's just a personal preference that I do most of the time. Okay, so the next question is from Jen from Jersey, and she actually has quite a long question, so I'm going to go through it quite quickly if I can. She says, since you've lived all over and have gone to experience true life in different countries and not just life as a tourist, as a tourist would, how have you found the cost of living in New York City compared to costs in the UK, Dubai, Bahrain and Canada? I know it's certainly not inexpensive to live in the northeastern US, but there are bargains to be had in all places where different things are concerned. Okay, so she goes on to give quite a bit of details about other things that she was sort of thinking about. So just in a general broad spectrum, I would say New York is probably one of the more expensive places that we've lived. Rent is definitely the most expensive here than anywhere else that I've lived. I kind of really wouldn't compare to when I lived in Vancouver, because that was a while ago now. It was like 9 years ago, so almost 10 years ago. Actually, yeah, it'll be 10 years ago this summer when I moved to Vancouver, when I lived in Vancouver for a year. So I think what my experience of cost of living back then is probably very different to what it is now. Although I do remember thinking that Vancouver was really affordable compared to London at that time. Vancouver was a lot more affordable. It was cheaper to eat out in Vancouver than it was to eat out in London. I distinctly remember that. London has always been quite an expensive city to live in, I do find, and transportation in London isn't cheap. Like, public transport has been increasingly getting more and more expensive each year. But I do think there were bargains to be had. I feel there are more bargains to be had in terms of when you're shopping for food in London than there are in the city in New York. I feel like if you got out of the city a little bit, things are a little bit cheaper and a bit easier to get a bargain. But in the city itself, it's definitely, you do pay a premium for being here in terms of food. Electricity and stuff, I'd say here is probably about the same as the UK. Dubai and Bahrain was incredibly cheap. Our bills were very low because a lot of it is subsidized. And rent in Bahrain was cheaper than in Dubai. Although the rent we were paying in Dubai was quite far below market value. Alright, so Leila's woken up. I've got to go grab her in a minute. So yeah, the rent we were paying in Dubai was quite a bit below what market rate was, but because of they had laws at the time for controlling rent increases, so it just meant that our landlord couldn't increase the rent as much as they probably would have if a new tenant had come in, if we'd left and a new tenant was coming in. And on that note, when we did leave Dubai, I asked the agent who was renting the place out was going to rent out the place, how much they were going to rent it for. The price was going to increase by 85% of the rent based off of what we've been paying. So that's how far below market value our place was, and we got very lucky with that one. Like, we always knew we were very lucky with that place. Again, like I said, Bahrain was much cheaper. Petrol in Bahrain was half the price that it was in Dubai, which is quite funny, and then it was even half the price of Bahrain in Saudi Arabia for petrol, just to give you that idea. What else is different? I don't really know about the cost of petrol over here because we don't drive a car that often, but I guess Perry could tell me if I asked him. I imagine it's quite similar sort of prices to London, or probably a little bit cheaper than London actually. And like I said, it's been over 5 years since I lived in London, so being able to again say how affordable it is now compared to when I lived there before is a bit difficult to say. Overall, I definitely feel New York is one of the more expensive places that we've lived. I think it's probably on a par with sort of parts of London and bits of Dubai. Dubai is quite expensive for food, shopping. Eating out is quite affordable in Dubai though. And what else in general? I can't think of anything else off the top of my head specifically. But overall, yeah, I would definitely say this is one of the more expensive places we could, which is why both of us were really surprised that we were able to make it work. Oh, she's fallen asleep again. Okay, that's good. So yeah, we were both surprised that we were going to be able to afford to live here at all, because we pretty much sort of ruled it out. So when it became apparent that, you know, actually we could make it work, we were very, you know, both surprised and very happy that we were able to do it. And because we didn't know, we still don't know actually if we're going to be here longer than a year, or if, you know, if we're going to get our visas or not to stay longer. And if we don't, we're going to have to leave next spring. So, and because of that, we decided to live where we wanted to live. We didn't want to, we could have lived out of the city to save a bit of money or get a slightly bigger place or things like that, but Perry and I both talked about it, and we're like, you know what, if it's only going to be for a year, we may as well be where we want to be. And so we decided to be in Manhattan. So we know we're paying a premium for where we are, we know all of that, but we also know it could only be for a year. So because of that, we've sort of thought that it's worth it. And if we decided we're going to stay longer, who knows, we might end up moving out of the city in a while, shortly afterwards. I don't really know, to be honest. We haven't thought that far ahead. We're just waiting to see what happens in the next couple of months with regards to visas. Alright, so that was really rambly, I'm sorry. Anyway, the last question I have to answer is from 3 Klein Schabjes. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. I believe it's in, I think it might be German or another language. So she says, hi Mina, I only just joined the group and started watching the podcast. That's it, she's from the Netherlands, that's why I can't pronounce it. She says, I watched the last few ones, and now I'm starting from the beginning. I see that you were selling project bags on Etsy, and I love the ones you showed. She's like at episode 15 at the moment. And now I wonder if you'll be selling again one day when you can. So sorry if you've already answered this question, but I'm not quite up to date yet with everything. Okay, so yes, I have actually decided not to do project bags anymore. I kind of was growing to resent doing it almost, because it was becoming more of a chore than a joy. And when I first started doing it, I was really enjoying doing it, and then towards the end I was in the middle of my pregnancy, and it was just really hard, and I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I want to spend more time sewing, doing quilts, and you know, maybe venturing into garment sewing and things like that I'm interested in trying, but I didn't feel like I could ever take time to do that, because I felt like I had to make project bags because everyone kept asking about them. So I felt like it was starting to become quite a lot more stressful than I wanted it to be, and it wasn't enjoyable anymore. So for now, no, I'm not planning on coming back to doing project bags. If I do, it might be like a special one-offs every now and again, but I don't think I'm going to come back to doing them the way I was doing them before. I can't, it just doesn't suit me and my style of creativity. I much prefer creating knitting patterns, and I would love to get back to sewing and doing some more quilts for Leila, for ourselves, for family, and yeah, I just want to sew for enjoyment rather than for a shop, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry if that is disappointing to hear. I do have a few of my project bags that I sewed up before I stopped doing it, that I've stockpiled to use for giveaways, so every now and again they'll come up as prizes, so hopefully you might be able to get one there. Otherwise, like I said, I may do some in the future as one-offs every now and again, just not anytime soon. I've not even unpacked my sewing machine since we moved, so it's still sat in this box under my desk. So yeah, sorry about that. And that's the last question. I'm all up to date on questions now, which is great. She is totally fine. She's still asleep. She does this every now and again. She sort of rolls over, like I say rolls over, rolls her head over, and in her sleep she'll just cry out. She's totally fine. She's not awake. I was just keeping an eye on her on the monitor, and she's sort of just drifted off again. So that's absolutely fine. And I think this might be the first time I get through a whole podcast without her waking up. Okay, so Leila is now 16 weeks old. She was 16 weeks yesterday, on Wednesday. I'm actually can't even get my head around the fact that she's 16 weeks old now. She's such a little person, it is insane. She's obsessed with sitting up still. We got her a little chair thing that supports babies who can't sit up on their own yet, to allow them to sit up. She loves it, but only for short periods of time. After a while she gets tired, so which is understandable. She's only a baby, but it's great to put her in that for like 5 or 10 minutes just to give my arms a break, because it means I can do something really quickly, and she entertains herself for a little bit. She loves also, she's started to love being standing up as well, so she loves it when you hold her so she can stand up and stretch her legs out, and like she plants her legs on your legs, and she puts a lot of, you know, she's got a lot of strength in her legs already, and I'm waiting until, both Perry and I are waiting until she has enough stability to be able to sit up on her own, so she's stable enough to go into the bouncer that we got her. It's like a doorway jumper bouncer thingy. She's gonna love it, and just waiting for her to be, like I said, stable enough to be able to use it, because that's going to be really good when she's able to do that. she's still chomping on her hands, more so now than before. I'm hoping she's not teething yet. I don't think she is. She doesn't have a lot of the other symptoms yet, but we have her 4-month checkup and vaccinations next week when she actually turns 4 months, 4 calendar months. And I'm gonna get the doctor just to double check and let me know if she is teething or not. I don't think she is, like I can't see anything in her mouth or anything like that. She's starting to show signs of learning how to roll. She rolls onto her side quite comfortably, but she doesn't quite complete the roll onto her front. And again, if from her back, she rolls onto her, onto her side, into her front. But then from her front, she can't roll onto her side. She hasn't quite figured that one out yet. She doesn't mind tummy time for like a minute or two, but then she gets tired and just like screams because she gets frustrated, which is adorable, but still. She started grabbing her toys, and initially she'd grab them, and then especially from the dangly ones from her play mat thing, and then she'd get really angry because she couldn't figure out how to let go of them, and so she'd start screaming until you go and like help her let go, which is again funny. She laughed for the first time last weekend during bath time with Perry, which was the most adorable thing I'd ever heard. And then a couple of days later, I was changing her on the changing mat, and I was just blowing raspberries at her, and she started laughing again. And she actually kept laughing for quite a while, so I had time to go run, grab my phone. I videoed a little bit of it, which is on our Philip Family Life Instagram page. I might include that clip at the end of this video if I remember to do that. I might not remember, but you can go check it out there if you want. She's also started moving a lot in her sleep at night more than anything else. Like she's actually starting to do circles in her bed. She's still in the bassinet next to our bed. I mean, it's a large bassinet, but it's not anywhere near sort of crib size. So as she's turning around, sometimes she gets stuck, like, so her bed is like this way long. Sometimes she gets stuck this way, so her head is pushing against one side and her feet are at the other end, so she gets a little bit stuck there. Sometimes she manages and does like a full 180 and turns around. Like I put her down one way and I wake up in the middle of the night to feed her and she's facing the other way. I'm like, okay. But sometimes she gets stuck halfway and then just starts and wakes up because she's stuck. So if I find her in that position, I usually like move her back into a normal position so she doesn't wake herself up. But she's doing that more and more now, so Perry and I are probably going to have to look at getting her a crib soon, because I think she just needs the space to be able to turn around and not wake herself up. Then, like I said, my brother was over for a couple of weeks, and his was a planned visit, which I was so glad he was able to come over. He absolutely loves Leila, is completely over the moon with her, and it was just really nice to see him with her and them bonding and stuff. And my mum also came over, which was a complete surprise. Was not expecting her at all, didn't think she'd be able to make it, but she decided to she got a ticket and hopped on the plane and came over. She came for about 9 days in the end, and so it was so lovely to see her and for her to get to see Leila again as well. It was just great to have them here, and it was very busy, but it was a lot of fun. And then what was it? So a couple of weeks ago, Helen, lovely Helen Stewart from Curious Handmade Podcast, she was in town for Squam, I believe, and so Jacqueline, Kristen and I met up with her and a couple of her friends, Stuart and Bowen, who I'd met them before at Helen's retreat that she hosted last March that I went to. So it was lovely to see them again as well. I hadn't seen them in a while, and everyone got to meet Leila because I took her with me. And so that was a good few hours of fun, sitting around chatting and knitting with friends. And then what else did we do? I'm trying to think now. I took Leila in an Uber for the first time the other day. I wasn't sure how it would work, if they'd be all right with car seats and stuff, and it was absolutely fine. The driver was very accommodating and was happy and helped us out. Put Leila's car seat is actually a really good one in that it's very easy to install in the car without a base unit. Most car seats are nowadays, but I specifically got one that would be quick and simple to install. So I like it for that reason. So it's good now I have Uber as an option to get around town with her if the weather's bad or I just need to get home quickly, because sometimes the subway isn't always the most convenient. What else? Oh, we finally applied for Leila's passport, so that's exciting. she's gonna have an American passport soon, which will be fun. I got her passport photo, which was hysterical. And the issue is over here, I don't know how it is in the UK actually for babies' passports, but over here for the first for children's passport, anyone under the age of 16, both parents have to be present. You can do it at the post office, but both parents have to be present, which means we could only ever do it on a Saturday because Perry's working. So so yeah, anyway, week after week there was reason after reason why we couldn't do it, and we finally did it, and that was great. Then what else did we do? Last night I went out for dinner with again Jacqueline, Kristen, Eric is in town from Sticks Plus Twine, and Shamika from Mika Mika, Knit Night with Mika Mika, I think it's her podcast, and Alison who works at Pearl Soho, and obviously Kristen has the Yargasm podcast and Jacqueline has the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast. Jeez, words. So it was so lovely to see everyone and have a night out. I hadn't had a night out in a few weeks without Leila, so it was nice to go out with them and catch up. And today Eric actually has a event at Nitty City in the city, so Leila and I are going to go over this afternoon once she wakes up and catch up with him again and see him and just sort of hang out, because he hasn't met Leila yet, so that'll be fun. And what else? Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up really. Thank you so much for sticking with me if you've stuck it out this far. I really appreciate it. My battery light is flashing, so I better sign off. Take care, thanks for joining me this week, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Yeah.
You really got like some on your face. Oh, yeah. We didn't do it. You can't look as happy in the picture. What will people think? What are you doing?